Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of DiversiTEA. My name is Tyler Baker, and I am so glad that you decided to join us today. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Evelyn Nitch-Griffin.
That's me.
Evelyn, who do we have joining us today?
We got Jim.
Jim Dlugos. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy to be here. Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Jim, what is your role with the college?
Well, right now I'm interim president, and what that means is anyone's guess.
What do you think it's supposed to mean?
President is the person who has no authority and all the responsibility for what happens.
This is a big deal for us. You're the first president we've ever had on the show.
That's true.
Well, happy to be here.
Yes.
To make history with you guys.
Jim, sometimes history repeats itself because we have to start off this show with one question every time, which is, what kind of tea are you drinking?
Well, my preferred tea would be a green tea.
You didn't get that today, did you?
No, that's okay.
You got Evelyn's chamomile. You know, that's the classic, right? That's what I bring each time.
Can I admit something to you all? This is Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, that's...
Diet Coke tea.
Traditionally, Diet Coke is not considered a tea. And we can't really call this DiversiTEA Coke. We don't have the branding.
Is it diet? Is that what you're drinking?
Yeah.
So, you know, a little bit tea-free today. But, Jim, you've got some tea in front of you.
Yes,
and
I do.
we are wondering, what is your landmark origin story?
So help me understand what a landmark origin story means.
Basically, you know, what is the origin of your journey? To
Oh,
What's that story?
got it.
So put a little spin on it.
Sure. I was just more or less hanging out in Maine, minding my own business.
One does.
As one does. And I did notice, I saw because even though I was retired, I continued to inexplicably read all about higher education on a regular basis. And then one day I got a call and said, you know, this is an opportunity. Would you consider it? And I said, well, I know a little bit about Landmark. So I said, sure, I'll be interested in learning more. And then I arrived here in June for a one-day whirlwind interview with little 15-minute appointments.
And
This is an amazing place. So the opportunity to be here, everything sort of aligned in terms of I wasn't doing anything else at the moment. It was close enough for me to be able to live in two places at once this year. And then as I got to know more about how Landmark works and how what the community is just, this is an amazing place. So I'm delighted to, this is well worth, I don't know that I would have agreed to be an interim at just any place, but it really is what Landmark does, which was very attractive. So that was a big part of my decision to come in.
That's a good origin story. Yeah. I think you captured one origin story.
you can make it almost cinematic. I mean, that's like the origin story, right? Like, where did somebody come from? I feel like we could put that in a movie. You're just sitting in Maine and you go, they need me.
And then you were summoned.
And you were
Exactly.
summoned. One thing that I do want to ask you about, because I feel like it's important, and there are going to be plenty of students who are out there who are going to want to know the same thing. If you have a burrito,
Yes.
and if you have a taco.
Mhm.
Now, I was reading that there was a court in the Midwest who said that a burrito and a taco are now legally a sandwich. And there are those who also believe that a hot dog is a sandwich. Jim, I think you need to settle this with the presidential authority that you have. Should a burrito, taco, and a hot dog be considered a sandwich?
I think they are just representative of the diversity of sandwich types.
Yes.
Very good.
Where have you been my whole life?
I mean, they all function from different cultures and different perspectives and more or less the same way. So
Jim, since coming to Landmark, what kind of questions are you asking?
yeah. Well, when I was teaching on a regular basis a million years ago, I became known for asking students why almost constantly. In fact, before long, they would say it for me. So I think that's pretty much the way I approach things. You know, why? Why is this here? Why is it this way? Why are we doing this? How come? But I think if you're gonna try to make something, you're gonna add value to something, right? You got to sort of understand what it is, right? You got to go back to, so why are things happening this way? You know, and there may be very good reasons why a thing is happening the way it's happening, and there may not be a very good reason why a thing is happening the way it's happening. But you've got to understand, you know, where this thing came from, right? In order to be able to do something with it. So one of the questions I've been asking about at Landmark is, why do I have to sign so many forms? There are a lot of forms.
How many do you think you sign on average per day?
I probably sign, it could be 24 forms a day.
So you've been haunted by this why, right? I think a lot of us have been haunted by a why before. I always kind of picture, the why as something, it's an act of exploration,
Yes.
right? The why.
Yep.
Has there ever been like a form that has surprised you in that maybe you would initially think that?
And it was in this moment that Tyler realized he was stuck in a conversation about forms.
The other thing that I spent a lot of time on in the last decade plus is thinking about sustainability.
Yeah.
So how do you sustain? How do you build and sustain community? How do you sustain whatever you think is of value, higher ed, how do you sustain academic endeavors? How do you sustain disciplines? I do sometimes talk about living in a post-disciplinary world, which unsettles some people. But if we want there to be things that we care about, 50 years from now, what are we doing today, right? So whether it's environmental or it's intellectual or it's social or whatever it is, I think sustainability is one of those really key things to think about.
That's actually really fascinating because the sustainability thing, because you hear sustainability, when I hear sustainability, or at least historically, I think, I should compost, I should recycle, I should buy a Prius.
Yep.
And so I'm glad you put it that way. And it actually makes me wonder, if students wanted to come talk to you about sustainability, I'm sure you would want them to, but
Sure.
outside of that, what do you wish students would come talk to you about?
Whatever they want to, actually. I'm interested in everything, but I think I'm interested in hearing them talk about their experience as learners in this community, right? I think one of the things that we don't do very well with students at any age is spend time trying to understand the experience from their perspective, right? We think we know what's supposed to happen in those spaces, but if we can balance that with, actually listening to students, what works, what doesn't work, I think we can get a better result for everybody involved. So just listening to them talk about, how a thing is going, whatever that is, what they, find most valuable about their experience here, Landmark, what things they would like to try to change. When I have done accreditation visits, I've always met with the student groups, and I always say, so, if there's one thing that you could change, what would you change? That's a kind of question I'm always interested in asking students.
Here at Diversity, we're always thinking about diversity. You did a great job, talking about the diversity of sandwiches on all their different forms. When we're talking about diversity, what's something that you always want to make sure is included in the conversation? The
real strength that comes from places, organizations, whether they're families or communities of any kind, that embrace diversity, right? And the diversity is a basic principle in the natural world, right? And we know that diverse systems are stronger. So that I think is really important to keep in mind, because it's easy to say, well, I just want to sort of hang out with folks who think like I do or who move in the world like I do. I think that's important. I think it's one of the challenges we have right now in greater society in this country, right? We sort of tend to get in our little silos, and hang with our little herds. And the other thing is if you're going to embrace diversity, then you have to really be an active listener. You just can't talk about diversity. You need to listen to other people's stories and make sure that you're really appreciating where they're coming from.
And you should actively listen.
I think encouraging people, again, to talk, not jumping in too quickly with a response, hopefully being welcoming and open and friendly is a way to get people to tell you their stories, And when I'm with someone, making sure that I'm paying attention to them. I'm not distracted. I mean, it's easy to get distracted by all kinds of things. A long time ago, when I was an academic vice president, the librarian came in to see me about something, and I probably had a laptop on my desk, and things would pop up on a laptop as they do, right? And David, his name is David, said to me, whenever I come in here, you always seem so busy, and so I don't want to waste your time. Which was, of course, was not what I was trying to convey to him. So what I learned from that was to make sure whenever someone came into my office to put my laptop either down or behind me, right? So I could, in fact, pay attention to the person in front of me and not to the other things that were sort of sneaking their way in.
Jim, you probably have to go do presidential things, and we got to also go do less presidential things. No. But before you leave, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience about Jim Dlugos and what you're doing here?
Here today or here?
Just in general.
In general.
Yeah.
I think, fun fact. Fun fact.
Either tell us what you're doing now or just give us a really fun fact.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm doing now, I think I'll get to the fun fact, is trying to do what I do everywhere, which is to help make the place I am stronger, better, whatever I can. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I always have done. Fun fact.
The hardest question of all.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Now you know what students have to go through, and we have to do icebreakers in the classroom. So
we got to torment you.
We want first name, last name, occupation. We've done all that. Now we want your fun fact.
When I was in college, I used to swim a mile a day in the pool.
You swim a mile a day in the pool? They had pools back when you were in college?
Yeah, and yes, they did. So sometimes when we're having a discussion with Matthew and Sophie, one day one of them said, "So back when you were alive."
Oh, your kids think you're dead.
So that's just become part of our back and forth. So I said, well, back when I was alive. So back when I was alive, I used to swim a mile a day.
Yeah. Wow. A mile a day. Well, we're glad you're alive. and where you hang out being alive, right? If students want to come tell you their stories, where do they find you?
They can find me in the office there over in the admin building. Always happy to have folks drop in. My door is literally, unless I'm talking to someone in there, always open. So happy to have people come by.
If they were to walk in, who would they see if they walked in? Who's the person they would see if they,
They
don't
would see
see
Tiffany
you?
first.
Tiffany, okay.
Tiffany's there, and Tiffany's very friendly. She knows that I'm always happy to see folks, and so she's not guarding me or keeping people from me or vice versa. So, yep, that's where we are.
Do you ever have a guard before?
I do have some gargoyles around, but they're pretty friendly. They don't.
So if you see gargoyle, right, look for the gargoyles. Look for Tiffany. Look
Tiffany.
for the president's office and tell Jim your story.
Absolutely. Love to hear it.
Fantastic. Jim, thank you so much
welcome.
for taking the time to be here, for chatting with us. This was a lovely conversation. And folks, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, as always, to come in, listen to us, and hopefully learn a little something from our conversation. We hope that you all have a great rest of your day. Take good care, be well, and we will see you all next time for
Diversity.